I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Look, everything's broken down. The machines have gone crazy.
Alrighty. Well, since the gopher's down, this is what we're going to have to drive. We've borrowed it, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's the old Black Beast pickup truck, all rotted and rusted. The whole bottom end's rusted out of it, the back end's rusted off of it. But it's what we used to use years ago when we actually had to haul computers and stuff around for the computer service. So we're going to be driving this as long as it runs. It doesn't run it doesn't run very well sometimes, so we're going to be trying to do that. So while we're waiting for everything to defrost, oh, the big crack in the windshield, oh, that's something new. So we'll be driving this in from now on. So it ain't the gopher, but we've got to be able to get in there to help people out and stuff, so we've got to be able to do that. Back in the day when I worked at one of the dealerships, I saw something on Matthew's site on his YouTube channel where they were replacing coil-over shocks. And back in the day when I worked at the dealership, there was, well, back in the early 70s when they first came out with the coil-over struts on American cars and everything, they had a crew come in to teach the mechanics how to actually compress the springs, and warned them how dangerous it was and everything. And they informed them that they needed to build a cage to compress these springs into so that it wouldn't slip out and damage, because it'd just knock your head off, basically what they said. Well, of course, the mechanics, the older mechanics and stuff, yeah, whatever, danger. And they were compressing a coil-over strut, and it slipped off from the clamping, and the strut disappeared. They had no idea where it went. They heard it ping. It was a big loud boom when the spring jumped off of the keeper and bounced onto the floor. And they hunted all over. Well, they had it in a vise, and they were compressing it, and they just happened to look, the mechanic that was doing the work happened to look up directly above him, and there in the ceiling, and this was a 3-story building internally, because they used to work with big Bison, Chevy Bison dump trucks and stuff, big semis. Up in the ceiling, sticking halfway in and halfway out of the ceiling, was this strut. The spring, the compressors had slipped off, and the spring had shot the strut into the ceiling. It was actually a steel roof with a vapor and tar barrier, and then gravel put on top of it. Big mechanics building and stuff with a flat roof. And it had poked through and had stuck halfway in and half out, and they had to pull that out, and they patched the roof. Well, needless to say, the next day they had a welder come in and weld a cage to where they could mount the struts inside this cage, close the cage, and then compress the springs that way so that it would never happen again. But, you know, it was dangerous, and I worked with a lot of mechanics that they would see something new and then go, you know, I don't have time to do that, because they got paid by the hour. I don't have time to do that. It says I'm only going to get an hour's worth of pay, and it's going to take me 3 hours to do it the way you want to do it. So, but it's dangerous, and those compressed springs really are killers and stuff. So we're going to go on in and see what the day brings. Let's ride. lot of things that certain mechanics did there that against safety procedures and stuff, but that was every place I ever worked. They on the old big 17.5 or 20-inch split rim semi-tractor trailer rims and stuff, you had to beat on them with a sledge to split the rim, to take that split bead off. Then when you pumped them up, if that bead wasn't just right, it would pop off. They wanted a cage put around that one, and for years they never put a cage where you had to work on the tire inside a cage, until one time one of the older mechanics was pumping it up, and you had to take them up to 100 pound of pressure to seat those big tires and pop them rims, and it was like a bomb exploding when it did. One day he pumped it up and the rim jumped off, came off the bead, and that big split rim bead popped off and chopped the top, cut him right at the forehead, and peeled the entire top of his head, the skin on his head, off. It was just hanging like a flap, like a bad toupee in the back. Well, they rushed him to the hospital. It knocked him down, knocked him out, but it didn't crack the skull or do anything. It caught him just at an angle enough where it just peeled off of that. They sewed it all back on, but he soon lost all of his hair, and you could see this big half horseshoe around the front of his head and stuff where they sewed it all back on. Well, within a few days they had a big cage all welded up and done for that too. So, it's, well, let's wait until it happens type of thing and mentality, but that's the way it used to be. Now, you couldn't get away with any of that stuff in a place. That's why it cost you 10 times as much to have anything done anywhere, because they have to recoup their money for all of the safety gear. Not saying not to do it. I'm just saying there's a lot of money for, trying to be safe that may or may not work, but that's the way it was. We're here at work. We're going to get busy because, man, do we have a lot to do. So this ain't the gopher, but we're here. We got to start our day. We make do, as always, with what we have. See ya.
Damn, that was annoying.